Hi, it's Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky back with my plans and pans. Well, this is August 31st, the last day, the end of a 20-year war in Afghanistan. And let me say that I applaud the President of the United States for deciding that we're not going to send another generation of young men and women to die in Afghanistan. This war is now over, but before it was, there were some really unfortunate incidents. There was an attack by ISIS-K that killed 13 of our soldiers. An attack not by the Taliban, but by ISIS-K, who also killed almost, or maybe it's even a little over 120 Afghan people who were trying to come to the airport to escape from the country in order to come to the United States, or to be safe for sure somewhere. They took credit for both of those incidents. But it's also true that our intelligence community was able to orchestrate some retaliation. One was to take out a car that was loaded with explosives and suicide bombers who were heading toward the airport and would have killed more people, and yet another that took out someone that was from ISIS-K that was going to do harm to us. So, but war is hell. It's best for us to be out of there. But we are also concerned about Americans who may still want to come to the United States, and Afghan allies who helped us who want to come to the United States. Our phones were ringing off the hook here in the district office where I am right now. People who were concerned about their loved ones, family members who were entitled either as citizens or legal permanent residents or had valid visas to come to the United States, and certainly people who knew an Afghan who had helped us. So we submitted nearly 100 claims. Very few actually have come through, as we know of right now. We're hoping to hear more good news as time comes, but we're also, and the president said he was holding the Afghan government, the Taliban, to its pledge that it would allow people who were entitled to come to the United States, both U.S. and Afghan people, to be able to come here. But the airport now is in the hands of the Taliban, and the war that is handed now over from the military to the State Department, and it's about diplomacy and working with that government and looking at humanitarian assistance as well that we will see going forward. So I had a very interesting and I think productive day along with the United States Trade Representative. We call her Ambassador. Her name is Catherine Tai. And I had the pleasure of working with her as someone appointed by Nancy Pelosi to work on the USMCA. That's the United States-Mexico-Canada Trade Agreement. We helped to have input and negotiate with the then trade representative what would be in there. And Catherine was the person who really represented us in these negotiations when she worked for the Ways and Means Committee and was the chief of staff for the Trade Subcommittee. So I've known Catherine for a while, but this is a big deal job that she has to negotiate, for example, on things that are going to come up with China and other countries around the world. And so first, on our little tour, we went to Black Steel, which is a company in my district that does, and Joe Black is the president, and he's the third generation of Blacks that has had this company. His grandfather began it, and his father, and now he work there. It's a thriving country, providing finished steel to manufacturers who make products that get sold here in the United States and then around the world. Joe and his staff wanted to meet with the trade representative, with Ambassador Tai, to talk about how companies like them fit into the future vision of manufacturing in the United States, and to just ask her some questions about what they might see on the scene in terms of tariffs, in terms of imports and exports. Very important and interesting discussion, especially for them. Then we went and met with union leaders downtown at the Chicago Federation of Labor. We were welcomed by them, and Catherine Tai was able to answer a lot of their questions, not just about the Mexico trade agreement, but about manufacturing in this country in general, about jobs. Because let's remember, globalization was in many ways a frightening word to workers in the United States, because it meant the outsourcing, the outshoring of jobs from the United States to countries like China. So there's a lot of concern about what is going to be happening. And they were able to ask a lot of their questions, and she was able to answer a lot of their questions. The reimagining of what globalization really means, to make sure that it's an even playing field for workers here and workers abroad where we're negotiating, and wages and et cetera. So, and then somewhat related to that, I introduced just this last week the Manufacturing Reinvestment Corporation, because we saw during this pandemic that there were lots of shortages of things that we did not produce in the United States of America. That included personal protective gear that's needed by our frontline workers. We didn't manufacture enough of that. We didn't manufacture enough microchips here in the United States, even to boost up our own manufacturing. So we're absolutely going to be looking forward to a bill that enhances our ability to work on reinvesting in our not only just reinvesting, but finding the good jobs for people. There's going to be job training, the question of business ownership. A lot of owners of businesses are older, and what about succession plans? What about communities that have been divested from, and making sure that we address those needs in communities all around the country and empower those communities to do a lot of their own recruiting and investing. So it's a time to focus on manufacturing and reinvestment in our country. We were struck, of course, by Hurricane Ida. Poor New Orleans. It seems like Haiti, New Orleans has a hard time catching a break here. The good news is that it did not overtake the levees. The bad news is that a really serious hurricane hit them. There are people that have lost their lives. Most of New Orleans has lost power. That we don't know how long it's going to take to reinstate that power. We are hearing that we'll probably hear of more deaths when the highway was washed out near the Louisiana Mississippi border. So these are hard times right now there, and remarkably, it was also the anniversary of Katrina when it hit. And that coincidence really made us think of the horror of those days. Hopefully this is not going to be as bad, that we've learned some lessons, but our hearts still go out to the people of New Orleans and Louisiana. We have the Supreme Court making some pretty bad decisions with this right-leaning court. 6-3, there's 9 members of the Supreme Court. 6 of them are very, very conservative, and 2 of them should not have been appointed because Barack Obama was deprived of his appointee. And then even while people were voting in the last elections, the Republicans decided to put someone on the Supreme Court. Here are some of the bad decisions. The Supreme Court ended the eviction moratorium that would have given people some breather room in order to get back on their feet to pay their rent, and money that would also go to landlords who are suffering as well, especially in small 2 flats and that kind of thing, or renting out their home, who want to get their money. So this was a very, very bad decision. And then, on the immigration front, we saw that the Trump administration made people get the right to come into the United States only if they sought it in Mexico, the Remain in Mexico policy. Actually, the Go to Mexico policy, even if you have crossed the border, and wait there for permission to come to the United States of America. And they said, the Supreme Court said it, there was a court decision that said that policy had to be immediately reinstated. So that is definitely a bad situation. And finally, back to the coronavirus. I think I've told you a couple of times now that there were 18 days at one point that we went without a new single case. Well, as of midnight on Monday, 2,266 people were hospitalized, and 4,871 were new cases of the virus, and there were 26 deaths. So this is a serious problem. If you're not vaccinated, what can I say? Please get vaccinated. One of the things that we're seeing now is that more children who are not eligible to be vaccinated are getting sick. And that is certainly, one, because of people who are unvaccinated who can carry it, but 2, because it seems as if even people who have been vaccinated might be able to transmit it to children. And that's why there is suggestion about a booster. May not be for everyone, especially if you're not in contact with with younger than 12-year-old children. May not be something that you need to do right now. So internationally, the European Union has put the United States on a list of nations restricted from traveling to the EU. And, so there are certainly consequences for unvaccinated people. So please get vaccinated, and even then, there are these travel restrictions that have been imposed. So that's about all the news I have for you, but I do want to remind you that it is Labor Day, and it's called Labor Day for a reason, a day to recognize people who are working. We ought to be thanking our frontline workers who have put their lives on the line during this Labor Day, people who have suffered with job loss, all working people, the right to organize. Chicago is a union town. We're a state really that supports labor and labor rights. I'm a dues-paying union member myself. My union, when well before I was elected, but I want to continue to pay dues, is Workers United SEIU. I'm proud to do that. So think about workers as you're taking that day off. Enjoy yourselves. Thanks. See you next week. Thank you for watching my video. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, where my handle is @Jan Schakowsky.